Hey, folks, welcome to a Sunday night edition of Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn, all the way from Inglewood, California, not Los Angeles, California, not Beverly Hills, not Malibu, not Rancho Cucamonga.
Where I was born in Palm Springs and grew up.
Okay. We are in Inglewood. We're across the parking lot from the Great Western Forum, where the Lakers played, where Jerry Buss ran Showtime, Magic Johnson. Hey, that's all fun, but that's way in the past. What's in the future is a 7-2 Lions team for the first time in how many years? I mean, they haven't been 9-2. They haven't been. I don't think they've been a 7-2 since the '60s. Don't hold me on that completely, but it's been a long.
Maybe the '50s. Who knows? It's been a long time.
Right. I don't want to throw a year out there, but anyway, they win, kick a field goal as the time expired, win 41-38 over the Los Angeles Chargers. Where do you want to begin, Carlos? Because this was a game, and by the way, they won a shootout for the first time in the Dan Campbell era.
Yeah, I think that what was interesting about this game, or indicative, or whatever, emblematic, was defensively they did not play well. That's one thing that I was disappointed in. I thought they would put together a better effort, and it looked like that was going to be the way the game was going to shape up. 17-3 in the second quarter, and then the Chargers come back.
You were disappointed?
I was disappointed in the defense.
They hurt you?
Yeah, they did. It was sad. I mean, Aaron Glenn owes me an apology, frankly, and
a box of Kleenex.
Yeah, maybe. And they scored. They scored touchdowns on 5 straight possessions. They were just unstoppable. And this is a good Chargers offense for sure. It's not bad, but I mean, from what we've seen from them, right, it looked like they maybe turned a corner. So then it had to turn into a shootout. And what the Lions showed is that they can win games like this, that we had, like you said, we haven't seen this before. So that's the encouraging part, is that, okay, maybe if the defense isn't going to show up, then the offense has enough potency to go out there and win a high scoring game. That's good, except that in the playoffs, you're going to face some pretty good offenses. You're probably not going to live this way, all the time and be successful just winning shootout after shootout. I don't think the team was really built that way, but it was a lot closer, and I think this game really needed to be.
No, you don't generally see 41-38 games in the playoffs. Sometimes you do. I mean, I think some of those Patriots teams in the later years won games that way, right? They were solid defensively. I'm thinking of the Patriots and the Chiefs. So it can. I mean, it is. You are going to occasionally. You're going to find a quarterback. Look, Justin Herbert's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, right?
After Jared Goff, yeah.
Yeah, after Jared Goff, he's a top 5 quarterback, and we saw some of the throws he made today, especially on the roll, scrambling on the run. I mean, it's breathtaking, right? Because there are 3 or 4 other guys that can make a play like that in the league.
Great arm talent, but it also takes more than just arm talent. It takes a lot of acuity, feel, working with your coordinator, all that stuff, being symbiotic with the guys playing calls, but also with the talent around you. So it's not just, I mean, Herbert's more in this Matthew Stafford mode where it's like, I'm gonna trust in my arm because I can throw 500 yards down the field, and very good, very, very good quarterback. But Jared Goff won the game.
He did. And by the way, I was just going to say, sometimes you get a quarterback like Herbert at that talent level with a receiver as good as Keenan Allen, and they kind of get this connection. They get rolling. They're at home. I know there are a lot of Lions fans here today, so it's not the normal home advantage, but it is a home field advantage since you're still in somebody else's turf. You're 3 hours. It's a 3-hour time difference. You're in the Pacific time zone. It's hard to come out to the West Coast and win, just like it's not as easy to go to the East Coast for West Coast teams, although San Francisco walloped Jacksonville this morning. But so there's some things going against you a little bit. They're on a roll. Your point about 5 straight possessions. You get the quarterback, receiver, symbiotic thing going, and it's hard to stop that. So what do? They answered it. Every time San Diego. Every time Los Angeles tied it, they never could take the lead, right? The Lions responded. And some of those times they were giving up touchdowns, Carlos, with pass interference, yes. Right? They nullified a intentional grounding with a personal foul on the court, a roughing the passer on the quarterback. There were some demoralizing plays that happened where you could really kind of hang your head, and they did not. They just calmly came back on the field and worked their way down the field.
Yeah, and as you could see, the Padres when the Lions went ahead, I think for the second to last, when their last touchdown that they scored before the Padres came back, I'm just going to call them Padres, but and tied it. You could see, or maybe it was in the last possession, but you could see the Chargers defense. There was a guy, he was, he'd fallen down. He's kind of just sitting there like a little kid on his butt and kind of had his head hung. And I think the Chargers are not as good of a team as the Lions. Their head coach, Brandon Staley's been on the hot seat almost the whole season. And they know that, beating a team like the Lions, even if they are at home and after a big Monday night win against the Jets in New York, this would have been huge. This team is more, the Chargers are more desperate for a win than the Lions are. The Lions are a very good team. This is the kind of game that you expect to win. But if you don't win it, it's like, well, it's not good, but it's hard to, like you said, everything, the travel, the Chargers are okay. They're at home, all these different things. And they have a very good offense. So, but the Chargers, you could just see it. And we've seen this from the Lions in the years past. We're like, oh, they just got a little bit of momentum and they came so close and they lost. And that was that player hanging his head. And the Lions didn't have that vibe about them. They were like, okay, we're in a shootout. The defense is struggling, but let's just keep going. And you never saw that kind of hangdog look from them. I think that's the difference of these two teams. But winning games like this and, that big play, the call on 4th and 2, right at the end of the game, that was huge. What did you think about that call?
Well, I thought that was the smart call and the only call, right? I mean, there's a minute and 47 seconds left, I want to say, and they're down close to the red zone, right? And I can't remember exactly.
It's about minute 47 left or so.
And it's 4th down. It's 4th and 2. And I was trying to remember exactly what they were on, what yard line they were on. But in any case, I don't think Los Angeles had
San Antonio. Did you see San Antonio?
I don't think Los Angeles had any timeouts left. But still, a minute 47 is plenty of time. Maybe a few seconds less than that would have got the ball back, but it's plenty of time to go down and do. I mean, they just scored 5 straight times or whatever. So Dan Campbell, to me, made the only move he could. He watched the game like everybody else did. He saw what was happening and which unit, showed up out here in California, and he put it in their hands. And yes, that was a gamble, but he needed 2 yards basically to win the game, and he got it. And plus it shows faith, and it shows that he understands the team week to week. Maybe some weeks the defense is going to be playing better and the offense is going to be scuffling a little bit, and he'll go with them and he'll make a decision based on that. He seems to be adaptive in that way, right? There's no set protocol with him. You never know what, because some weeks he's going to just be happy to punt it. Mm-hmm. Other weeks he's not.
Yeah, he's not shackled by some kind of weird, I always do with this a certain thing a certain way. He does adapt. He has a good feel. He has good intuition for what's happening in the game, what's happening with his players. And that's what's encouraging. And you hear that from the players, from Amon-Ra St. Brown, we heard that. And from Jared Goff, it means a lot. It's not just this game, but we go for it a lot on 4th down. And the more
they want to prove him right.
He said, Amon-Ra St. Brown said, we want to prove him right, and they have a lot of times. That's why they go for it on 4th down so often. Of course, a lot of that's Ben Johnson's play calling helps a lot, but the execution of it for sure with all these players, with St. Brown and Goff and so forth. And the run game today was really impressive with Montgomery coming back after missing 2 games and Jahmyr Gibbs with a couple of touchdowns. And it's just that there's nothing to be concerned about with that offense, but it's just the defense. You do more or less have to have a holistic effort. This offense is really good.
They were healthy today for the first time since probably the whole season, right? If you want to include the offensive line.
Offensive line, absolutely. The offensive line was a huge part of it. They were blocking where Jared Goff said he never got touched. He never got knocked down. I don't think there was a quarterback hit registered. He certainly wasn't sacked. So he had a lot of time. That always helps. So that's something that's very encouraging. I just think I wonder what Dan Campbell's going to say about the defense after he watches the tape. He said he was going to melt in his seat on the plane on the way home. It's a tough coming out here. Probably tougher on the coaches. Sometimes they have a lot of time to think, but he doesn't like to look at the game film right after the game because he's emotional. He's going to wait till the next day probably. But it'll be interesting what he says on Monday about the defensive effort, something about the offense too, but the offense was just so good. It's the defense that I think has to be a little bit of a concern right now.
No, for sure. And again, with a game like this, a quarterback like that, some of the skilled players that Los Angeles have, you're always going to think, okay, does C.J. Gardner-Johnson, does he make a tackle, right? Does he make a little bit of does he direct somebody? Mosley, it's harder to say. Jerry Jacobs is filled in pretty well there, but they're missing, excuse me, they're missing a quarterback back there to a degree. And then Kirby Joseph is the second best back there in a way. And so I think about that sometimes when I watch a pass defense or pass offense doing what. Excuse me, I got a little something in my throat. Doing what San Diego. No,
you're never gonna get rid of it.
No, I've thought of them. I go back to Don Coryell and Dan Fouts, and I mean they've been to San Diego Chargers. Your life too. I mean,
no, for sure. I call them San Diego for many times.
Yeah, yes. for most of our lives, but no, I think about so there's that, and they couldn't quite get to Herbert. Herbert has really sneaky. I don't want to say sneaky because that's a.
Oh, we know what that means. Yeah, be careful.
Yeah, you don't want to say that. He's got really good athleticism, and he's got some quickness about him.
Good. He has a good feel for where the pressure's coming
right,
from.
And then he can go. When there are a few times that he's not Lamar Jackson, but he's faster than Patrick Mahomes. I mean, he reminds me a little bit of Josh Allen. He's not quite that much of a bulldog, but that's a good one. But in any case, you watch that, you think about maybe what's not quite back in the back end yet. They're still trying to figure it out up front. I mean, they rotate a lot of guys in, and they just couldn't quite get to him. But I don't know that they wanted to quite get to him because they got to contain him. The problem is that he can pick you apart if you had time. So he's not going to, there were some missed tackles, the roughing the quarterback. There were a couple of times there were missed assignments. Guys in the wrong spot, biting on fakes, that kind of thing. Some of that's going to happen, but I'm sure he's going to see that and say, I wish they were a little bit more disciplined, a little bit more focused.
Yeah, the thing about the Chargers, and obviously I think they had coming in, they had the 8th ranked scoring offense, so pretty good. Lions right behind them at 9. But it's not, this isn't like this powerhouse. You don't think of it as, Keenan Allen, it's his 10th year. He's a very good receiver, but it's his 10th year, right? It's not like he's some Jamar Chase out there, destroying people. So they're doing well with what they have. And a lot of that credit goes to their offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, former Lions quarterback. He's really good at calling plays, making the most of what he has. But, Austin Eckler back there, running back, and I don't know what their tight end's name is. I mean, they don't have name brand Pro Bowl guys at every position. Herbert's obviously very good, and he makes up probably for some of these deficiencies in their skill positions. But even on one of the possessions, they scored a touchdown. Keenan Allen had a sore shoulder. He left the game for a while. He wasn't even in that drive almost entirely, and they still scored. So that tells you a lot about, one, the offensive potency of the Chargers, but also the defensive deficiencies of they took out their by far number one passing threat, and they were still able to move the ball and score on the Lions defense. So that's something that
he had too much time, didn't he?
He had way too much time. I don't know if they registered a sack. I'm not sure. I mean, it certainly didn't seem like it. They got close a couple of times, but they just weren't. They knocked him down a couple of times, some quarterback hits, but just not enough pressure. And that's kind of been something we've been seeing a little bit too much of lately. Not enough pressure,
and that leads to the pass interference sometimes, because then you're asking the secondary to, and that's the other part of it. Yeah, they got to stay back there forever. By the way, from where we're sitting, we're in a suite kind of near the press box. I don't know what kind of muckety-muck sit in here, but if you look out toward the stadium from where we're sitting, the word Samsung, the appliance, stereo, whatever, it looks like it's just sort of floating out there. I feel like we're in a future, like a Spielberg futuristic movie out there. It's also that it's not that it's super, super late, but you've been out here all week. I flew in from State College. I was at the Michigan Penn State game.
University Park.
Well, I actually spent more time in State College. The stadium's in University Park. It's a little confusing. And before we get too more confused, I just wanted to say, to your point, Dan Campbell absolutely has guts. I got a text from a friend out here I've known for forever at halftime, and then at the end of the game again, and all he said was, Dan Campbell is crazy, and he meant that in the best possible way, right? And I just imagine that there's a lot of the fan base out there that just was really, really satisfied with winning the way they won today. I know watching the defense was frustrating, but having them go for it and then putting the control, kneel, field goal game, right?
Yeah. That's the interesting thing is, I mean, when your San Diego Chargers were in the AFC, right? That's what it used to be, Coryell and that kind of stuff. It just Gutsy
Kellen Winslow.
Kellen Winslow, but the AFC was like that. It was a fun league, and it was used to be the AFL was what it was. Mm-hmm. If you ever watch a great documentary about, I forget what the name of it was, like the history of the AFL or whatever, what ended the AFL. It was a fun league where they just threw the ball and it was, constant, offense all the time. And the NFL has become so conservative that something like this is considered like bold, and it's like, no, of course you want to end the game with the ball in your hands. Of course, you're leaving it up to a kicker to make a 41-yarder. If it's not an amazing kicker, you're taking a chance.
They were giving up a touchdown.
Yeah. Exactly.
Unless San Diego... Unless Los Angeles beat themselves or fumble the ball or whatever, they were going to score a touchdown.
Yeah,
I guarantee you, most of the listeners and viewers out there, whatever, our readers, the fan base, absolutely thought that they were going to give up a touchdown because that's just so often how it goes. So. To your point about I might as well just
say San Diego.
Accept it was just San Diego. That's ridiculous that they moved up here. It's not fair.
It is.
All those hardworking naval gals and guys down there that help take care of this country and protect this country. They deserve a team. I cannot believe they yanked them out of there. That was a great fan base too.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't a great fan base. San Diego is always, as an Angelino, and I've always liked going to San Diego. I used to go to Jack Murphy Stadium to watch the Padres and your Chargers.
It was a garbage stadium, but it was a good fan.
It was a garbage stadium, but it's always been it's always been a bad fan base because they're very blasé, because there's so much. San Diego is a beautiful town. There's a lot of other stuff to do. In fact, I have a friend who used to live down there. He worked for one of the papers, and he had a blog called Minor League Town, and it was all about San Diego fanaticism because people just got disinterested very quickly when the weather was too good. Like, should we go to the beach?
And by your people, I mean, of course, Californians.
Yeah,
they're come on,
they are. No, Californians are.
Because it's the same here. You got all sorts of stuff, but their Dodgers are a really good fan base.
LA is very similar, except that it has a much larger population, so they can get away with it. But San Diego has a much smaller population, so. Any little diversion of it's a surfing competition, let's go to that instead, or a golf tournament, whatever.
Or a new ramen shop.
Yeah, absolutely.
Although there's some pretty good ramen in Detroit at this point.
Yeah. So
we're catching up.
So we're but they deserve for the people. I felt bad that they've lost their team, but frankly, they really couldn't support it.
It was a great crowd, though. I remember when they were good, right? When they were
really good in the Phillip Rivers years and stuff, and the LaDainian Tomlinson and all that. Yeah, when they were really good and they started tracking toward the playoffs, they would show up for sure. But a lot of times they wouldn't. You just look at teams like San Diego State. They were hosting UCLA this year, and they just didn't draw well. It's just been hard to always keep momentum going in that sports town. So I definitely feel bad for them. But also San Diego is also a very transient town like LA is. And part of it is because of the military, right? They come and go, but it's nice that they did get some support though. It wasn't a sellout, but it was a decent crowd.
But the Lions the Lions fan base almost helped make it a sellout, right?
Yeah.
The way they're traveling. And Jared Goff said this again today. He said this, I want to say in Tampa. He maybe even said this first in Kansas City because that's what that happened on the season openers where everybody first noticed how much Honolulu blue and white and silver was in the crowd. Not that there's Honolulu white and silver, but
Honolulu blue and silver. You're really too tired.
Yeah, we do need to wrap this up. But no, but he said he's never seen anything like it. And
it's rare. It's rare in the NFL.
And he's never, yeah. So
Rams fans, he didn't see it from Rams fans even during the Super Bowl because Rams fans are like, "Oh, should we go to Minnesota? No, we're not going to Minnesota. We're staying here and going to the new Nobu that opened or whatever in Malibu. That's what they're doing."
Yeah, no. So anyway, the fan base showed up again. The team showed up in the end. Actually, the offense showed up to the whole game. Gutsy calls, Gutsy plays. The play to Brock Wright on the touchdown before, that was on 4th and 1. I want to say that was down the 25-yard line somewhere. I think it was a 25-yard touchdown. You'd think he fakes the handoff. The defensive line kind of digs in. They throw over the top. Just there's a lot of really good stuff. A lot of really clever stuff. Amon-Ra St. Brown with 56 yards. It's a career high. Maybe 154. Sorry about that. Carlos is right. I'm fading here, but 4th straight game over 100 yards, 6 out of 7. As Jared Goff said, he's a stud, and a Brad Holmes poster boy for finding finding a guy,
absolutely
a great
one of the great finds in the draft ever, maybe. But as it's
for the Lions,
we're going to see for the Lions, but we're going to see. I mean, as it plays out, this guy's going to make Pro Bowl after Pro Bowl if he stays healthy. But more importantly, they go to 7-2. Stay atop the division and keep pace with the Vikings,
who beat the Saints, right?
Who beat the Saints, and they're coming hard. They're not. People got to be a little bit concerned about that right now. So it was actually a more important win than really you would think going into this game. So if they keep pace, it's going to be an interesting end of the season as we enter the second half of the season.
Yeah, no, I think the whole newsroom is going to be in Minnesota on New Year's Eve. Christmas Eve.
Yeah, I won't be there, but let me know how it goes, though.
Yeah, no.
I gotta wait for Santa.
Well, it's a Delta hub, so we should be able to get back. You know what I mean?
Well, it's really expensive flights for some reason. So,
well, hub to hub often is.
You in first class is what it's.
That's never the case. No, look at you. You're the one with the Rolex on, or the Rolex lookalike, or whatever it is. I don't. Who knows what that is? All right. I think we've fallen off the rails a while ago. It's good to see you, bud.
You too.
It's always fun covering a game, especially on the road with you. We will be back with our regular edition of Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn. We'll probably Thursday. We'll be back Thursday. Hopefully with a little more clear head, at least for me. Carlos is always clear headed. We want to thank you for spending some time with us, and as always, listening to the show. And we'll talk to you later this week.